I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
We all know that Joe Biden's cry for unity speech was a complete sham. But then again, so was the entire inauguration itself. The whole thing was an absolute train wreck, from Hillary Clinton's horrific wardrobe to the virtual parade that had one of the lowest Inauguration Day ratings in U.S. history. And you know how I know that? Not because I looked it up, but because I couldn't find a single source that would actually report the ratings from yesterday's inauguration. But we all know that's how the left-wing media operates. Bury any truth that doesn't support the narrative. All that you'll actually find when you Google Inauguration Day ratings is still talk of President Trump's inauguration being the second biggest in 36 years. But not all the media is out to brainwash us. Thank God for Fox News and Newsmax, who still continue to fight the conservative fight. And today we tune into both Sean Hannity and Grant Stinchfield as they both slam Biden's speech for the utter hypocritical BS that it really was. Let's head over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and take a look, starting with Sean Hannity over at Fox News.
Now, if Biden truly wanted unity instead of just words and just cliches, he would have started by ending the vitriol in his own party. For example, he could have stopped comparing Republicans to Nazis like he did a week ago. He could ask his colleagues to stop referring to 75 million peace-loving Trump supporters as domestic terrorists that support insurrection when they absolutely do not. He could call for an end to the unconstitutionally post-presidential impeachment charade. He could also apologize for the Russia hoax and all those lies and the Ukrainian impeachment. Mark my words, this will never happen. Biden and now his radicals in power in his party, they don't give a rip about unity. Slogans, bumper stickers, flat-out lies, and smears continue.
So let's break this down. As Sean Hannity just reported, the whole thing was BS at best, completely hypocritical. So let's digest what we just saw here, because it's very clear that Biden's cry for unity isn't really a cry for unity for all. It's a cry to get Republicans to stop complaining. That's all it really is. So he keeps comparing Biden, Republicans, to Nazis. That, to me, is not a cry to unite the American people, name-calling, shaming, and that's all we've really seen out of the Democratic Party for the last couple of months. So definitely all we've seen since the Capitol Hill rioting. He's grouping us all together. The entire Republican Party does not represent, or I'm sorry, the extremists do not represent the entire Republican Party. That doesn't create unity. All he does is continue to shame the Republican Party, shame half of America. Biden is the leader of the Democratic Party. He's the president of the United States now, yet he doesn't tell his own party to stop referring to all Republicans as domestic terrorists. He doesn't tell the Democratic Party to stop blaming all Republicans who supported the insurrection, because all Republicans didn't support the insurrection. 75 million people did not support what happened at the Capitol, yet we feel like we're the ones being blamed. We feel embarrassed about what happened. We don't need the President of the United States constantly throwing that back in our faces. What about the impeachment hoax? The second impeachment hoax, this latest impeachment against Donald Trump. How is that going to create any unity? And Biden knows it's not. which is why he has been so silent on this topic. Notice how Joe Biden has not really spoken much about the impeachment. It's only been Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and all the far left radical politicians who are screaming to convict former President Trump of impeachment. But Biden knows this is a very dangerous game to play. But he doesn't feel the need to tell the Democrats to cut it out. The Democrats are searching for loopholes right now with this impeachment. And I believe Biden knows it. And they may have just found what they need to take this one step further. Because after all, isn't it unconstitutional to try and convict a former president for impeachment? Let's take a look and let's see what the Associated Press has to say about it. So some Republican lawmakers argue it's actually not constitutional to hold an impeachment trial for a former president. Okay, so we've already looked, and we'll see exactly what the Constitution says in a minute. The fact that we're even debating it is insane. But we know that the Democrats, when it comes to the Constitution, don't really follow it unless it completely suits their narrative. They're constantly looking for loopholes in the Constitution. It's exactly what's happened during the impeachment. All summer long, they didn't care about the Constitution. When it came to our freedom of speech, censoring the president, suspending his account, they didn't care about the Constitution. But during the impeachment trial, all they did was throw Constitution back in our face. What happened at the Capitol wasn't constitutional. Oh, now we suddenly care about the Constitution? So the whole thing is completely hypocritical. But some Republican lawmakers argue it's not constitutional to hold an impeachment trial for a former president. But that view is far from unanimous. Of course it's far from unanimous. Gee, who's disagreeing the Constitution? Well, the Democrats, for their part, appear ready to move forward with a trial. So what does the Constitution actually say here? Let's take a look. So why is this even open for debate? Well, the Constitution says the president shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. But the Constitution doesn't say anything about impeaching a former president. So it's very black and white. It's very black and white that it says the president shall be removed from office on impeachment. Removed from office is the operative word here. But you better believe the Democrats are going to try to find loopholes. They're going to scrutinize the Constitution. They're going to look for ways to alter it and amend it, as they constantly do, because they feel the Constitution is always up for interpretation, which it's not. It's supposed to be an ironclad document here. So this entire impeachment hoax isn't a cry for unity. And if I honestly believed they wanted unity, then they would throw this whole impeachment hoax out the door and say, forget it, leave it. We need to prove to the American people that we are genuinely here for all of them. So you can't tell me I want to be the president of all people, I want to unify the country, but then constantly slam or try to impeach and convict a president who 75 million people voted for, that so many still love. So why exactly do they feel it's necessary to impeach the president? What's the point of impeaching someone who is already out of office? Well, this makes me laugh. Chuck Schumer said, we need to set a precedent that the severest offense ever committed by a president. First of all, what did Trump actually commit? What did he actually do? The president is supposed to be impeached for a crime that he committed. The Ukraine impeachment, they couldn't find a single thing on him, hence the reason he wasn't convicted, even though they dragged him through the coals for 85 straight days during the last impeachment. Not a single shred of evidence, yet they tried to impeach the president. So here we are now accusing Trump for the severest offense ever committed by a president will be met by the severest remedy provided by the Constitution. How hypocritical is this? The Constitution says you can't impeach a former president. It says nothing about it. The wording's not even there. So here we're accusing President Trump of doing something that he didn't even do. A few extremists did. Because we need to follow the laws of the Constitution, which the Constitution doesn't even say it's right to impeach a former president. So the whole thing is a complete circus act. Nothing's going to come from it. Absolutely nothing. I know they're scared to death of Trump running in 2024, as they should be. There's so much support. You know, I originally didn't think Trump stood a chance in 2024. I really didn't. I thought there were too many Republicans who may have taken the side of the likes of Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney. I just didn't think there were enough that were going to follow the likes of Ted Cruz and support Trump. I'm sad to say that. I just didn't think there were. But the more I now see Republicans stand up and fight against this impeachment leads me to believe Trump might actually have a real shot here. And from what I hear, he's already in his Florida home getting ready for the next election. So the whole thing is complete garbage. The whole cry for unity when we're trying to impeach the president, we're blaming Republicans of being Nazis. The Democratic Party keeps referring to all Republicans as domestic terrorists. I feel like I'm in grade school right now, constantly being scolded, being told to go sit in the corner and put my dunce hat on. I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but that's how I feel. And I'm not going to listen to some guy point the finger and try to reprogram me or tell me I need some serious de-Trumping over the next few years. How does that make me feel unified with the rest of this country? They say Trump has caused this division, but the division started. Let's be honest here. The division started way back in the Obama era. Well, guess what? We're right back into it right now. I'm not calling this the Biden era. This is the Obama era all over again, because we know Obama and Hillary Clinton are going to be the ones calling the shots here. Biden's just a puppet president. I was hoping for a lame duck one, but he's still a puppet. Maybe in 2022 we can fix that. So Biden's constantly talking about changing America. Chuck Schumer, we want to change America. First we take Georgia, then we change America. What exactly needs changing? As far as I'm concerned, half of the country thought America was doing just fine. Yesterday, he comes guns blazing in, signs 17 executive orders, already wipes out about 40,000 jobs, and today he gets rid of the 1776 Patriot Education Act that Trump wanted to put in place. So now we're wiping America off the face of the planet in our schools so we can indoctrinate on diversity. I understand the call for diversity. I also understand the call for patriotism. He's wiping all that out. That's a big slap in the face to everybody who supported Trump on day 1 and 2. Let's head over to the comments in the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what other Americans have to say about the cry for unity and what Hannity just had to say. Joanne says, not if they keep up with this impeachment. Not only that, but I'll never be in support of any of their disastrous policies that put America and its citizens last. Really? Illegals pouring in and we're paying for their health, education while we have people living in tents. My heart goes out to the people on the border towns. It's about keeping power because guess who they'll vote for? Not hard to figure this one out. And she's exactly right. It's a great comment to open with today. Unity starts with putting America first. And if you go onto the if you go onto the White House website and you look at the list of all of Trump's accomplishments, you can't dispute that they were all put there for America first, regardless of what you think about Trump. He did put America first. Forget what the media had to say, because the media didn't have anything good to say about anything. So if you leave the media for a second and you actually go to the facts, if you go to the list of accomplishments and you do your own research, you will see just how many jobs were created by leaving the Paris deal, by going independent on energy, by closing the borders, reducing illegal border crossings by 87%. Everything that the Republican Party did was to put America first. Patriotism wasn't or the Patriot Act that he wanted to put into schools wasn't to highlight white supremacy or disregard diversity. It was just to say, hey, don't you think it might be a good idea to teach young American children about America and the patriotism that comes with being American? I mean, God forbid we teach our children what the Constitution means or what the Bill of Rights even are. After all, green card holders know more about American rights because they have to actually take a test and study a book about what it means to be a true American. So Reba says, no, they don't. Regarding unity, if they cared about unity, they would have worked with Trump these past 4 years. That's a great point. I don't bring that up that often, and it's a phenomenal point. They didn't work with us. They didn't work with the Republican Party. They didn't work with Trump. All I saw was bickering and the Russian hoax. I mean, they consumed that man's time with 4 years of BS hoaxes, impeachments, Russian fraud, collusion that just wasn't there. And they expected him to get anything done. I can't believe there's a list a mile long of accomplishments that the Trump administration were able to even focus on when he was constantly under attack by the Democratic Party. The whole thing was a disaster. A lot of people say, oh, I just want this administration to be over. I just want to go back to normal. Well, what's normal about bowing down and throwing out America first? What's normal about that? Oh, because now you don't see bickering, you don't see fighting in Washington? That's only because the media is going to suppress it all. The media caused all the bickering and the fighting. They supported all of the ridiculous hoaxes that the Democrats constantly put in front of the American people. That's why there was so much bickering, because it just wasn't true. We were fighting to get the job done while constantly being attacked. Brian says they already had federal agents tear gas those clowns in Portland that are still busting up the city. Where's the outrage for them? That's true. Last night, look, Democrats, you won. Why is BLM and Antifa still rioting? I saw that and I couldn't help but laugh. They're still rioting. This isn't about Biden winning. This is about a group of people who have an immense amount of hatred towards America, yet we don't even condemn these people. Brian says these goons have been busting up the city for months. The Libya media stopped showing it. Sickening. Hypocrisy and double standards. It's the double standards that everyone is so frustrated about. More riots last night. Where's the media? Notice how Biden's inauguration, we didn't see the millions of people that this country thought we were going to see. 25,000 troops, National Guards in Washington, D.C. Not a single riot. Not a single city burned to the ground last night. All show. It was all for nothing. Because the Republican Party, we don't riot. We don't fight in the streets. We don't burn down cities. Yet, we're not applauded or praised for that. Yet, there's riots in Portland, New York City, throughout the entire inauguration. And we don't see anything on the media. Where's Biden coming out and condemning Antifa riots, the BLM riots? So we can't help but to think this whole call for unity is nothing but a sham and a show. I don't know who's buying it. I don't even think the Democratic Party's buying it. I mean, if you do, I think you need to seriously get your head examined. Because it doesn't take much to know these double standards are very real. All you got to do is a little bit of research. Edmund says, now that they made everybody miserable with their left-wing hate, suddenly they want our cooperation. Let's ruin this presidency for them. Oh, wait. Biden will do that all by himself. I think he will. I think he's already destroying it. You can't go guns blazing towards the Republican Party and expect to get reelected. So a lot of people are going to be really upset. You have to remember, the only reason that Biden won this presidency is not because there are more Democratic voters. And this is what frustrates me the most. It's because so many Republicans abandoned Trump. They abandoned their party this time around. It was the Republican voters who voted for a Democratic president. That's where all those votes went. They went to Biden. So if Biden's not careful, if he keeps undoing the checklist of accomplishments that Trump got done, putting America first, those Republicans are going to very quickly swing right back to the right and vote for a Republican president the next time around. So it's very foolish what Biden's doing right now. And I absolutely do agree with Edmund here that Biden's going to ruin this presidency all by himself. He's already off to a great start. In just 2 days, he's destroyed tens of thousands of jobs. He's thrown us right back into the WHO. He's thrown us back into the Paris Agreement. He's taking down the wall. He's stopped construction. He's about to give safe passage to 11 million immigrants, illegal immigrants, who he's going to just make citizenship. If that's not going to turn heads and get people angry, I don't know what will. Richard says, you nailed it on the head. Biden is not interested in unity. He still wants to bash the Republicans and President Trump. Trump did more in 4 years than Biden has done in 47. If the Democrats have worked with the Republicans, so much more could have been done. That's true. You know, it's funny. The inauguration yesterday. How much talk? First of all, this is supposed to be Biden's big day. This is supposed to be a big win for the Democrats. But all I heard was talk about Trump. All I heard was Trump this, Trump that. Shame on Republicans, naughty Republicans. All day I heard that. I didn't hear talk about hope. I didn't hear talk about what we're going to do moving forward. And wearing masks for the next 100 days does not give me hope that we're going in the right direction. Vaccine an American and getting millions of vaccinations out based on what Operation Warp Speed already set in motion doesn't give me hope. So I still haven't heard anything about hope and moving forward. I thought the whole speech yesterday was just awful, just horrible. There was nothing of hope. There was no award-winning moments of that speech. It was all talk of what Trump's already done and shaming the Republican Party. Let's head over to Newsmax, where we listen to Grant Stinchfield talk about his version of unity.
As I listened to his speech on a day where I so desperately wanted to take a positive and hopeful approach on this show, President Biden made it nearly impossible for me to do so. He claimed the theme of his inauguration is unity, but he continued to paint America as a nation in crisis, as a nation somehow needing to be rebuilt. But that's all a lie.
We'll press forward with speed and urgency, for we have much to do in this winter of peril and significant possibilities. Much to repair, much to restore, much to heal, much to build, and much to gain.
Winter of peril? The stock market is surging right now. We now have a vaccine, thanks to President Trump. The military is stronger than ever before. We are energy independent as a nation. Peace deals have been struck in the Middle East. And our current regulatory and tax environment is the best position it has ever been in years. It will allow for a rapid post-virus economic growth. For all of that, we can thank President Donald J. Trump. Yet Joe Biden peddled doom and gloom today.
A cry for survival comes from the planet itself, a cry that can't be any more desperate or any more clear. And now, a rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat.
That is rhetoric. White supremacy is not on the rise. Neither is domestic terrorism. Does it exist? Yes. Is it a threat rising to the dangerous level described by Joe Biden over and over again? No. He mentioned racial justice too many times to count. It is a polarizing political buzzword, and he knows it. And I can promise you, when Joe Biden mentioned domestic terrorism, he was not referring to Antifa. He was not referring to Black Lives Matter rioters, violent groups who literally continue to terrorize streets across America. Remember, for days on end, we watched them destroy everything people worked for. Instead, he chose to focus on one dark hour at our nation's capital that does not define the 74 million Americans who voted for President Trump.
So Grant has a lot of great talking points here. When I saw these two videos, I was thinking, thank God some of the media is calling out the hypocrisy for what it is. So we break down here exactly how Grant also calls out BS on this entire thing. Biden says winter of peril. What about summer of peril? Where was all this talk about the summer of horror? Well, there just wasn't any. The stock market's been at an all-time high. Peace deal struck in the Middle East. Warp speed COVID vaccination distribution. Yet, winter of peril. And he's absolutely right. Joe Biden has done nothing but paint doom and gloom. I was just saying this a minute ago. Where's all the talk of hope? Where's the talk of peace moving forward? I think the Democratic Party knows deep down inside, half America, half this country despises them right now. Truly does not like anything that they stand for. I mean, look at the inauguration yesterday. Was that not the most depressing thing that you've ever seen? It reminded me of North Korean propaganda. If you've ever watched, like, Kim Jong-il II show videos of North Korea, it's all just very fake and staged and depressing and gloomy. That's exactly what I saw yesterday as you had this parade marching through the streets with not a single person there. Why couldn't anybody be there yesterday? You had 25,000 National Guards. They could have done social distancing. They could have done masks. Where were all the cars and the honking like at his rallies? Why wasn't any of that there? What was the point? It's because they are so worried that half this country hates them right now. Is that why? Because they probably have a right to. You could just see it in them. So if they know that, then why isn't he trying to step up right now and say, listen, Republicans, I understand you're frustrated. No, we cannot accept violence in any way, shape, or form. But I understand that you're all not to blame. I understand it was a very small group of people. Where's any of that talk? It's just name blaming, pointing the finger. White supremacy is on the rise. Domestic terrorism is on the rise. As far as I'm concerned, the only domestic terrorism that I saw that was on the rise, which made me extremely nervous, was the BLM and the Antifa riots last summer. I mean, that really looked like it was on the rise, and it continues to be on the rise because the Democrats have won everything, yet they're still rioting. That, to me, leads me to believe that we have a very serious issue here. Not a bunch of hooligans who stormed the Capitol for a photo op. That was hardly a domestic act of violent terrorism. After all, the only shot fired was from a Capitol Hill police, whether intentionally or not. The reason we find his entire speech extremely hypocritical is because Biden chooses to focus on one dark hour on our nation's capital. It does not define the 74 million Americans who voted for Trump, and Biden refuses to tackle this issue. He refuses to bring that fact up. Trump was forced by Biden during the debates to condemn white supremacy. If you guys remember that, during the debates, Biden says, do it, condemn them, condemn white supremacy. Trump did it. Yet Biden didn't have to condemn Antifa or the BLM acts of violence. If anything, it was the exact opposite. It's very hard to now side with the man or agree or believe his cries for unity when they allowed such violence all summer long. The fact that he even discussed it in his speech yesterday was mind-blowing to me, because we know it's all lies based on their actions. Actions speak louder than words at the end of the day. So we're not seeing it. Their continuous talk about reprogramming the Trumpsters, changing America. We don't need to hear that right now. Half the country is furious. They need somebody to console them and to genuinely bring them together. But there's not much genuine about Biden right now. There wasn't a single new war in 4 years under the Trump administration. He's one of 3 presidents ever in the history of the United States who did not start a single new war in his entire presidency. What an incredible feat. Struck peace deals in the Middle East. Let's head over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what the American people have to say about what Grant Stinchfield just said. Lisa says, I sincerely hope Biden is treated with the same lack of respect and hostility Trump was subjected to. There's unity. 4 years of just Trump bashing, Republican hating, event after event, and now they want cries for unity. It's too little too late, and I hate to talk so negatively, and I hate to bring all this to everybody's attention, but the media does not paint the real picture. They don't tell it how it really is. You better believe CNN and MSNBC and all the left-wing media are going to act like nothing's wrong. It's all communistic propaganda that half of us are not going to fall for. Andrea says, Democrats cause so much hate in this country. Destroying cities and hurting people, fraud election in Biden states, let's all get along. You and your party created all the chaos. We're bigger and better than that. You people are the hateful bunch. I have to agree. I got to agree with her. The Republican Party is the party of peace. We've proved it time and time again. How many Trump rallies were there and there wasn't a single shred of violence? Nearly 1 million people were at the Capitol, yet a very, very small handful of them decided to raise a little hell. Doesn't reflect the whole group. And we know it. We saw it during the inauguration. An election was stolen, according to so many. This election was stolen. Millions, tens of millions of people feel that this election was stolen. They're outraged. They're furious. Many of them said they're never going to vote again. But they didn't take to the streets. They didn't commit acts of violence. Because they are a peaceful bunch at the end of the day. They feel burned. They feel robbed. And now the man who literally stole it all away from them is trying to get them to unite. Wanda says, come on, guys. Give Slimy Joe and his friends some credit here. They spent a lot of money, told a lot of lies, and threatened a lot of people so we could get here. It took the whole Democratic and part of the Republicans and the lamestream media. Can you imagine what they had to go through? Matthew says he will run it into the ground and say it's Trump's fault, and he can not only do so much in 4 years. It's the excuse they use every time. He's referring to a CNN article that came out the other day. I laughed. I actually posted it on my wall. CNN's already making excuses for Biden, saying there was so much damage done from the Trump administration, so much damage done that they're not sure Biden's going to actually be able to undo it all. I laughed. I couldn't believe that the media, CNN, of course they're already making excuses because they know he's going to fail. So they now need to paint the picture early that this is going to be because of the Trump administration. what damage has actually been done? Answer that question. What damage has really been done here? All I keep hearing about is damage done. What damage? What damage from the right's been done? If anybody can answer that seriously, I'll back down. But the reason I continue to call out the hypocrisy and attack the left is because they're shoving falsified information down the American people's throats, and it's disgusting and it's criminal and it's laughable. And if you don't do your independent research, that's all you're going to see. It's communist propaganda at best. And when you open your eyes to it and you do a little bit of research off the mainstream media, you'll see it for yourself. Hence the reason the likes of me and so many other conservative type talk shows have popped up to counter the falsified information that you're getting from the left, to counter the fact checkers on Facebook who shut down everything they don't agree with. So it's all hypocrisy. His call for unity is a complete sham, yet the left-wing media supports it, which is why you need to look at other outlets. You got to look at what Fox News is saying. You have to look at what Newsmax's saying. I look at CNN. I'll be the first to admit. I look at CNN every day because I need that perspective. I need both sides of the story in order to sit here and do my show ethically and responsibly. So if I don't understand what's going on the left, how can I possibly argue it on the right? So I encourage everybody to do the same thing. Let's head back over to the Keyboard Warrior cam and take a look at some other comments and frustrations of how hypocritical Biden's call for unity is. Chris says, I can tell you for a fact it's not, yes, there are still people struggling. I drive a semi, and in Midwest Texas, we are working. Yes, it could be better. The picture he painted was locked down Democrat states. The doom and gloom, he's right. The doom and gloom is all Democratic governed run states. Yeah, there's doom and gloom. It's because the likes of Cuomo bankrupted New York State. We don't see doom and gloom in Florida, do we? Where across the country do we see doom and gloom except for in Democratic run states right now? California, you better believe, is doom and gloom. There's a mass exodus of people. Doom and gloom in New York, a mass exodus in people so badly that we're in jeopardy of losing a congressional seat. Hopefully it'll be AOC's, but nevertheless, we are in jeopardy of losing a congressional seat because our population is declining that badly. If the Democrats wanted to unite the American people, they wouldn't have locked us down, ruined our lives, destroyed jobs, forced our children to stay at home when they need to be in school the most. We would have followed the Republican playbook of democracy, of freedom of speech, freedom of religion. We would not have violated so many constitutional rights, which is exactly what lockdowns are. So we can't help but to feel extremely angry and frustrated right now towards the left, who have actually caused so much of the chaos. And me raising it to your attention, me bringing this to your attention, me raising awareness is not inciting hate. It's not inciting violence. I get that a lot of times when I bring up these topics on my personal wall. People have accused me of inciting hate, inciting violence. I say, I've never done anything like that. I'm raising the real struggles of America. I'm bringing this to your attention. If you think I'm inciting hate, that's something you need to figure out internally with yourself. But journalism is bringing facts. It's bringing real struggle to the surface so everybody can see just how bad things are right now. Me blaming the left is not inciting hate. It's calling out the hypocrisy based on real events that have happened. Just because you don't turn CNN off doesn't mean I'm inciting hate. But that's what we get for trying to report what's really going on. And we won't stop. Vicky says he needs to grow a pair and tell Schumer and Pelosi to stop the impeachment BS. Then he needs to tell big tech to stop censoring conservatives and give President Trump back his accounts. Beautiful statement. That is such a great comment. That's what needs to happen. Schumer and Pelosi need to take a back seat. Let President run the show. Biden might even let us, he might even surprise us. He might actually have some good things on his agenda, but we're never going to know. Because the Clintons, the Obamas, Pelosi, Schumer, they're the ones in charge right now. And they're all crooks. All of them have a rap sheet a mile long. Including Biden, sadly. I don't think there's any of them who aren't under scrutiny right now, with real evidence. They need to stop censoring conservatives, get Parler back online, prove that they're not out to get us. That will bring back unity to the American people. Giving President Trump his account back when so many people desperately need to hear from the person that they admired so much. That will create unity. But telling conservatives to go away, be silent, taking the president's accounts away, you're not allowed to talk to them anymore. That's not unity, that's scolding. That's silencing. That's abusing First Amendment rights. And regardless of what you think about the fact that private companies can do whatever they want, it's their right. That's correct. They can do whatever they want, but it's ethically and morally wrong. And it's a slap in the face to half of America right now. Hence the reason Twitter stocks are plummeting, Facebook's going down the drain. And you better believe that there's a group of entrepreneurs out there right now who are working round the clock to replace Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Twitter. And a lot of money is going to come flooding in, and this is going to be a great opportunity for so many to now finally break into the market when they didn't think they stood a chance before, but now they have the backing of 75 million people. So if anything, this was probably a blessing in disguise, because finally we'll have platforms that provide true freedom. Rhonda says, God help us, America has fallen into the hands of some very evil people. Lord, we trust you. God, we know you're still in control. Amen. Cindy says, it's in crisis, referring to Biden's inauguration speech about America being in crisis. Again, remember, yesterday was all doom and gloom talk. There was no talk of hope. There was no talk of faith in America. Both sides. It was just name blaming, scolding the Republican Party, talking about white supremacy and domestic terrorism on the rise. There was real no call for hope. There was no discussion of having faith in the new leadership. It's in crisis, Cindy says, because he is going to put us there and wants to blame Trump, just like they blame him for everything. Spineless politicians, the new Democrats. Janelle says his inauguration was in need of help. All those pedophiles in such a small area, they're all gross. What happened to the list a mile long of Epstein's Island? What about Hunter Biden's laptop? I mean, there's actual evidence here. Burying this evidence only proves that you all have something to hide. And that is why so many Republicans and conservatives are furious right now. The Democrats just turn a blind eye. They want nothing to do with it. They don't want to know either way. Republicans go digging and they say, this doesn't make sense. Epstein killed himself out of the blue. And then all of a sudden, his entire list of politicians, celebrities who hung out on Pedophile Island now surface. But we're not going to look into that? We're not going to look into Hunter Biden's laptop? Why are Democrats above the law? Why is it when it comes to Democrats, we don't feel the need to investigate? We couldn't even investigate any of the election fraud. Thousands of testimony were brought to the attention of these judges, the Supreme Court. Yet it was all thrown away. See, there seems to be a common trend here with the Democratic Party that if it's something to do with them, we don't question it. We don't dig deep. We ignore the evidence because that's the Democratic way. All of that is not going to bring unity to the American people. So his cry for unity is too little too late. There's too much hate in America right now. And no, I'm not inciting it because I keep talking about it. That's not how this works. I will keep talking about it because it exists. And it exists because of the corruption and the hypocrisy and the lies that the Republican Party is constantly fed. Why we don't stand up to it is beyond me. Maybe we need young, fresh blood to show up and start fighting back. Maybe we need the likes of AOC on our side. Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is doing a phenomenal job so far at that. If you don't follow her, Congresswoman from Colorado, little gung-slinging firecracker she is, and she's already started making some serious noise. These are the types of Congress people that we need fighting for the Republican Party. Because sadly, Mitch McConnell is not doing it for us anymore. We got to get the young blood in. We got to start fighting back. But we do it on the Senate floor, not in the streets. It's not the American way. Remember, we are the party of peace. Thank you guys so much for joining the show today. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show, or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our show or want to know more, check out YouMadeItPolitical.com.